Okay, this is the Uncanny Omar, and I have amazing Amanda here
Hey,
with
everyone.
me, and we have these wonderful folks. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. This is Hannah. Who are you, Hannah? What do you what is it that you do with dying
Inside.
inside?
I am the writer of Dying Inside, and the concept creator, I guess, is the other word for it, right?
Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about that in detail here in a few. And Lisa, what do you do with this graphic novel?
I am the artist of Dying Inside. So yeah, all the art inside, inks, colors, it's all me. So yep.
And Adrian, who are you, man? This is the second time on the channel. What's up?
Hey, I'm the editor-in-chief of Vault Comics. I should take the least credit for everything here. All I did was, help make sure that Hannah and Lisa were well supported while they made this incredible book with Pete Wentz from Fallout Boy. So, yeah, least important person in this party.
That's right.
Okay, so how did this project come about? Whose idea was it, and how did it get into the hands of Vault? And then how did Lisa get involved?
I guess I can start. So I've been working with Pete for a few years now. We collaborate on a few different projects, usually in the film space. But I, came up with this idea, and at first we were talking about it, and we thought that it would be a great either like TV or film idea. But Pete then, while kind of reading through some ideas that I had for it, was like, this would actually also be really cool as a graphic novel. And that was kind of always something that I always had a lot of interest getting into. I love graphic novels. And so when he said that to me, I was like, oh, I would actually be really down for that. And he had the Vault connection because of Headshell, which is Adrian, tell me if
I can jump in there. Yeah. So as you guys know, we're doing, comics with iconic recording artists or imprint, Headshell. So it's all in the Vault line. It's all Vault books, but that's like our label specifically for our music collabs. And we'd gotten to know Pete. And that was when Pete was like, hey, I've got this, idea that I've been working on with Hannah. I really think you guys would dig it. It fits really into the space of, your audience, the books you already put out. So that's when we all connected, and I got a chance to hear from Hannah and Pete about the story, which was like one of the fastest pitches to green lights in my career. I was like, and yes, love this.
That's very cool.
So that's, I think, how it, and then in terms of Lisa,
I think, I don't know, a year, I guess 2 years ago now. Yeah. Adrian hit me up in my inbox with a really cool pitch that I probably read a couple sentences, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely on board. I mean, one, the 13-year-old in me was just like, oh my God, Pete Wentz, Fallout Boy. So, and, just the story itself, the themes, witchcraft, sardonic teen girls dealing with, depression and mental illness, and also finding friendship. The themes, I already had like a vision in mind. And I think actually there was a visual element to the pitch. There was like a whole like aesthetic mood board that y'all had created that I was like, okay, I can already like see, I'm already starting to imagine this book, and I have to be attached. And actually, y'all were really cool about it, because originally I was like, I don't think I can, do this right away, because I was actually pregnant at the time that you guys approached me to do the book. And I was like, I can do it if you can be cool with me just taking a 3-month maternity leave in the middle of it. And y'all made it work, and we're super supportive. And it was, I was really happy that it all worked out, like timing wise and everything, scheduling. So yeah.
It was such a dream working with Lisa, but also something that was so weird is that I actually had been using her work as reference images for my film project right before this book. and I didn't even realize it.
I didn't even know that. That's neat.
And then I actually used one of your tarot cards as a reference image for the film project that me and Pete did for like our promotional art.
Nice. Very
And
cool.
it's the one that says everything is fine at the bottom, and that's the name of the project. So it was all very like magically
Serendipitous.
Yeah.
When did this start? What year are we talking about? Like when it was just you and Pete, Hannah, before you even had a publisher, before you even had an idea who would be drawing it? Like, was it just...
It was like a month before we started working with Vault. It was like very quick.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
He was already connected with Vault. And so it was literally like, I went to him and because we're always kind of spitballing new ideas for different projects.
Yeah.
And it was literally like, kind of like one of those perfect, like, wait, I actually have an idea because I've already been talking to Vault, and this actually could be really great for that. So it was I think that we both realized, like, when I was talking it out with him, how graphic novel-y the idea was. And it just seemed like such a perfect fit as a medium.
Yeah.
So what year did we sign on with you, Adrian?
I think Lisa had it right 2 years ago, 2022.
Okay.
Wow, that's actually really, really fast.
It is fast.
Considering
Lisa also gave birth.
Oh, that's right.
She brought life into the world. Like, let's not forget that incredible fact that she's a mom and drew the whole book. Like, that's amazing.
That is fantastic.
I think it's honestly a testament to how much I loved the book and working on it, and that I never got burnt out, which is always, a risk whenever you're working on any big, long project, especially in comics. But it never felt like a slog. It never felt like I was tired of working on it. It never felt boring or repetitive. I just, it really was like a dream project. I loved it.
So I know for maybe some of the folks in the chat that may not know, can you guys give us a synopsis of what Dying Inside is all about? Just in case anyone in the chat is not familiar yet with the work that is coming out soon.
I'm trying to think of like how to say this in like a very like succinct way. Okay. Do you want me to try, or Adrian, do you want to take a stab at it?
No, I would much prefer you do it on the spot.
Okay, I apologize. I'm very wordy and I'm not great at being succinct, but I will try to be good about this. Okay. So it is about a teen girl who is, suffering from depression, both diagnostically, but also just because she's a 16-year-old girl, which I feel like most of us can relate to at some point. And then she decides that she wants to, trigger warning. Again, can I do like a live trigger warning?
Yeah.
Trigger warning. She decides that she wants to kill herself. And the way that she wants to do it is by emulating her favorite musician's death, which is Elliott Smith, if anyone is familiar with his work. So again, trigger warning, the way that he did it was by using a knife and hurting himself that way in his chest. And so she decides to try to do the same thing. It turns out that she ordered this really aesthetic, cute knife from Etsy because she's 16 and a girl. And that knife happened to basically, when she goes to kill herself, she doesn't die. And it turns out that it has been blessed by an immortality spell of sorts. So then she has to track down the Etsy witch who sold her the knife, which happens to be another 16-year-old girl named Liv, who works at a boba shop a few minutes away.
Absolutely adorable.
Sorry?
She's absolutely adorable.
Thank you so much. Liv is... So their names are Ash and Liv because it's like Ashes and Liv, like they're very different. Okay. Ash is very dark and Liv is like a bubbly, happy person. So anyway, then the story becomes about a lot of things, but the main thing is sorry that my thing just keeps beeping and I don't know how to turn it off because I'm really bad at technology. So then what ends up happening is that it becomes them trying to undo the curse. And also, I mean, Adrian, should I get into the subplot? I
think what I always say about like spoilers and stuff is like, we can talk about all the problems, just don't talk about the resolution. you know, because then people kind of get to hear what's going to happen, but we don't tell them how it all gets resolved. So yeah, please, you can hint a little bit about the subplot.
Cool. Let me know if I'm talking too much. Okay. Basically it becomes them trying to undo this curse. They obviously form a very close friendship, a best friendship along the way, which, you know, has its ups and downs like any 16-year-old best friendship between girls. But then also there's this added element of Ash's stepfather of sorts. He is a kind of seemingly crooked psychiatrist who is giving out a drug that is seemingly not kosher to the masses. And it also kind of becomes them trying to get justice in that world as well. So it's kind of a mix of, you know, it's about body autonomy and also, you know, making sure that your doctor isn't an overprescriber, responsible, and kind of just the inner turmoil and of, you know, dealing with mental health and what that means in this day and age, and you know, all the different ways that you can work on it and all those things. And then also it's obviously about teen girl friendship. So it's a lot of different themes in one.
Yeah.
When co-creating a project like this with somebody like Pete Wentz, I guess my question is always like, how much of this is plot and then dialogue, and how much of the characters are you? And then does Pete say, was there ever any arguing? Like, no, that's not the way that character would do that, or how does that work?
So Pete never argues. He argues in terms of he'll argue for something that he believes in, but in terms of me and him, we are so copacetic. And he's very much someone who we've been working together for years, and he's amazing at, you know, giving advice and tweaking things with me and working out problems with me. But my voice is very, very specific. And when we signed on to work together many years ago, he did so because he likes the way that I think and the way that I write. So we've personally, me and Pete have never argued over anything creatively or otherwise before. And usually the process is more like, I'll go to him for help with an idea. Like I'm trying to figure out, like, how can I make this more interesting? You know, does this feel clunky to you? He is a beautiful writer. I'm sure if anyone is a fan of Fall Out Boy, their lyrics are pretty singular and
a little bit. Yeah, Amanda is. She loves Fall Out Boy. Like,
oh,
I love Fall Out Boy.
Fall Out Boy.
Oh my God, is that a Fall Out Boy tattoo?
Yeah, it is. I can't even have myself to the other. There we go. Yes.
Oh, okay. I am also a huge Fall Out Boy fan since I was like 11. So working with him, it's also my dream come true.
Everybody's making me feel so old.
Omar.
You're
not. It's only as old as you feel. So,
so yeah, he's a dream. He's one of the rare times where you should meet your heroes, because he is better than I ever could have ever imagined him to be as a collaborator. But he's a beautiful writer. So we actually have some of his poetry in the book, like original poetry in the book. And for this, Lisa honestly was, I mean, her art to me is the reason that any of it makes sense. So I feel like it was just from there, like obviously dialogue was important and plot was important. For me, dialogue is more important than plot, but in graphic novels, that's not really how it works.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, and then I think with Lisa coming on board, like that was when the project like actually, in my opinion, started to take shape in a real way, because it kind of made it the actual graphic novel that we wanted it to be. And the visuals are so important, especially because and I'll have Lisa talk about this, but she did a lot with like color and like
that's what I wanted to.
Yeah,
I
the
wanted to ask her
choices
about
of
that.
colors are amazing in here. I
Yes.
love your choice of colors.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To set the mood and the tone of the scene.
Mhm.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that, because obviously it's not fully colored, but there's color elements. There's a reason there's
Here we
color in certain sections, right? So talk a little about that. You
Yeah.
know,
So
Bit of
it's a little bit of I kind of approach color in this book in a few different ways, and I try to accomplish different things depending on what the scene is. But yeah, so generally there will be a palette or a primary color, whether it's pink or blue, per scene that's occurring, that I'm hoping is establishing like the tone. Like the beginning of the book is a lot of like moody blues. I really wanted to capture the feeling of like being in a darkish room when it's raining and there's no sunlight and it's just like gloomy. And so I'll do that. I'll set the mood with like one color, like a pink or a yellow or a blue, and then kind of as the scene unfolds, if there's elements that I want to draw attention to that I think are important or that need to stand out more, I'll just pick another color and have it really pop. And I really wanted to keep the color minimal, and I was influenced a lot by Japanese manga, like Sailor Moon and the work of Rumiko Takahashi. And
oh my god, I love Ranma and Maison Koku.
Yeah. Nana was a really big that comic was a really big inspiration too. And so yeah, kind of the style and the color was sort of, I guess, a accumulation of things that I've been trying out in comics for the last like 7 years. So I was glad it kind of all coalesced and came together for this project in particular, because I've been wanting to find the right project to kind of do this style on, and this one was like, it fits so well for it. So yeah.
It was also, oh, sorry, you go.
I was going to jump in and just say the first book of Lisa's that caught my eye was a book that she and Matt did years ago called Long Lost, before they collaborated at Vault on Witchblood. And I feel like, Lisa, in a way, this is like a little bit of like a return to some of the things that you were doing in Long Lost, but then of course tailoring them to this story. And so I feel like for almost a decade now, I've known that I've wanted to see a book like this from Lisa, where Lisa was fully in the driver's seat with the palette choices as well, not just the inks. There's one passage in particular in the book where there's sort of a montage of time passing from autumn to winter to spring, and the use of colors from Lisa just like makes this section so beautiful. And so I just wanted to call special attention to that.
No, I agree with you completely, Adrian. Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. And
that part just like makes me fall in love with the two characters so much.
Right?
I'm like, oh my God, they need to be okay forever.
Yeah. You don't need so many words to show how their friendship is progressing just based off of that. The images alone. It's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lisa, when did your journey with comics begin? Were you a fan of comics growing up? You mentioned manga.
Yeah. I was mainly into manga as a kid. I remember checking like anytime that a new manga would pop up at my local library, because there wasn't a lot, I would be like, I don't even care what it is. I'm gonna read it and buy it. So yeah, manga, some Archie comics. I was really into that as a kid. I feel like you can kind of see a little bit of that influence too.
I can see that.
Work. Yeah. And then in college is when I started discovering a lot of cartoonists. I'm reading Ghost World, Love and Rockets, Black Hole.
Wow, you're going through some really good indie stuff there.
One of my favorite things was we sent the book out for pull quotes, and Cody Ziegler, Zig, is writing Miles Morales #1 and did Spider-Punk, and he's in the Futurama writers room. he came back with a pool quote about how much he loved dying inside. And he was like, I can feel all the influence of Love and Rockets and Black Hole and like everything Lisa just listed. And
it was so funny. It was so funny seeing that pull quote. And I was like, wow, I guess I really do wear these influences on my sleeve.
Which are like all my favorite comics too. And I was like, yep, I guess he nailed it. He knew exactly where we're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I think that I feel like the saga that really brought me into the whole, like, I started going to the comic shop and getting, single issues and starting reading more comics and indie comics mainly, and not just graphic novels and manga. So, and then I think what year was it? 2016 or 2017, I believe, was when Long Lost came out, which was my first comic. And I made it with my husband, Matthew Ehrman. He was the writer. I was the artist. It was the comic that we were like, we had this idea. We'd been watching a lot of bad horror movies, and we were like, let's make our own horror story and not just talk about things we don't like about horror. And that comic was like it was like a gamble. Like we really didn't get paid to make it. It was totally a labor of love. I had a full-time job at the time, so I was working on it like exclusively at night, and but it paid off. So after that, I just started. I think Submerged with Vault was the next comic I did right after that. So I've been working with Vault for almost the entirety of my comics career, which has been always a pleasure. But yeah, and then I've done a bunch of comics since then, both graphic novels and comics and intellectual properties, and IP work, and original comics. So yeah, it's been a great couple of years for sure.
Hannah, did anything in the story change when Lisa came on board? Like maybe adding some elements to play to your artist, or maybe changing a couple of scenes?
I think that mostly what it was it wasn't that like big plot points changed. It was more like there were all these like beautiful ideas that kind of got carved out of what was already there. And I feel like what's really interesting about this particular piece in terms of the art is that the art is mimicking the emotions of our protagonist, which is it's like you're almost in her head subconsciously while you're going through the book, because the colors are mimicking how she's feeling. Certain things that pop out, there's like, this isn't giving anything away, but there's I don't have it on hand, but there's a page with Ash where Liv is complimenting a nail polish, and we kind of decided between us, like, this is actually kind of supposed to be a representative of the fact that Ash hasn't been noticing the beauty around her because she's been so in it. And so stuff like that. Yeah. Like that is a whole page that we decided to use to really highlight, kind of Liv showing her the magic around her and kind of being like reminding her and kind of bringing her back to life in a way. So it's stuff like that where we really got to carve out these important character moments through visual, which I've never been able, I'm a writer. So that's like not something that was really collaborative with Lisa, because she's the one who was able to capture those feelings in a way that's very like visceral for the reader.
You said you're a writer, and how many graphic novels have you written before this one?
None.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because I think graphic novels are different than novels, right? Or poetry.
I'm a screenwriter. Yeah. I'm a screenwriter.
Okay.
So
yeah, in a way, I guess it kind of is a little bit like that, because you're thinking about storyboards and things like that. In here, you're thinking like panels. But yeah, how is that transition into graphic novels for you?
It was actually, I actually thought that it lent itself screenwriting lends itself very well to graphic novel writing, because when I write a screenplay, it's mostly dialogue. And then I have obviously like chunks about action or setting. But, in a way, this is kind of like we wrote a really, really intricate storyboard for a film. It's essentially shotless. And like in my head, this is actually very similar. The way that I wrote it is the way that I write any script. It's just that I had to work with Adrian on like what it means to do the layouts of panels. Sorry. Layouts of panels. So besides that, though, like there's certain things like language and like how you write, you know, oh my God, whether you use an exclamation point or like there's like certain things where there was formatting things that I needed to learn. But I actually found that it was extremely freeing. It didn't feel like I was restricted at all with this format of writing. And it was a blast. Like, I think, honestly, this is the most fun I've ever had writing anything, because it's this crazy thing where I wrote it and then it appears visually and I didn't have to even be on set.
That's nice, right?
You mentioned something that I think, I don't know if you do this in screenwriting or not, or maybe I don't know if you did it in the graphic novel. The sound effects, like in certain panels, like when the lettering. And I'm sorry, Adrian, who's the letterer on the book?
It's DC Hopkins from Andworld. So Andworld is the studio. They do a ton of work with us, and the letterer specifically on this one is DC.
Nice.
So when you're writing like in the script, do you have to write out the sound effects? And my question is like, did you have to Google what sound a chair makes when it's being dragged across the floor? Because I always find that kind of interesting in comics. Like, yeah, who was it? I think it was Roy Thomas and John Buscema. Or like whenever there was an interview, they were talking about how they had to come up with like certain sounds because clanking and you know sword slashing, that just got old so quick. So they had to come up with their like own sounds for the letterer to write it out.
Well, that was an Adrian thing. He helped me so much because I don't know. And also he was really great about telling me when we needed a sound effect, because that's not obviously in script. I don't write, you know, unless it's like there's a thud from upstairs that we don't see. Like that's like the extent of what I would be writing. So he was really great about being like, hey, like either it was like the panel already existed and he was like, we should add this here, or whether it was like, in order to fully have this action feel full, we should add the sound effect. So that was luckily, Adrian, I don't know what your process, like, I don't know how many sounds you just know off the top of your head.
A lot, I think. You know, a lifetime of making comics and editing. I guess I've been working professionally in comics since I was 19. So that's, you know, 13 years of doing this. But what I'll say is that, like, you know, I've worked with a lot of first-time writers in my career, whether that's first time writing a graphic novel or comic, or first time writing anything long form. You know, Vault definitely prides itself on trying to like couple newer talent, emerging talent with really well-established talent. I think it's a great way to break new voices into a market that can sometimes feel a little echo chambery. And doing this process with Hannah was just an absolute blast, because it was like fish to water. Hannah's, you know, ability to script in this medium showed her love for the medium and understanding. I think the hardest thing moving from motion to comics is learning where to like fix the action so that you're communicating very clearly action, reaction, and the kind of movie the motion gets to play in the gutters in your brain, you know, between the panels. And one of the reasons you were asking earlier how Lisa you know, sort of came to the project, one of the reasons I immediately was like, oh, this should be Lisa on this book, is not just the witchy side with you know, her incredible work on Witch Blood and the Modern Witch Tarot, but also I've collaborated with Lisa on the past and edited her work, and I know how good Lisa is at that collaborative process and the storytelling process, and jumping in and saying like, hey, we should consider changing this motion or this action to block it this way, because if we do, it's going to be a lot clearer for the reader and we're going to get to the same end result. And not everyone, I mean, all artists have to do that. I want to be clear that that's literally the job. That's what makes it so incredible. But not everybody is as like capable of expressing that also in words as in their art. And Lisa is, like, testament to how good Lisa is as a collaborator. And so that was one of the reasons I was like, this really, we should bring Lisa in, because I think it'll be that perfect marriage of somebody who comes from the motion world of film and television and somebody who speaks that language and can also help do the, like, here's a tiny little tweak we can make to really fix a motion in a panel. I think it was even Federico Fellini, the famous director, who said, like, something along the lines, I'll butcher his quote because I'm not nearly as eloquent as he is, but something along the lines of, like, the difference between film and comics is that, you know, film will never have that power that comics has of fixing a butterfly on a pin, and like that ability to just stop and hold you in this moment where you get to spend as much time with it as you want. And I think that's the power of the medium. And I think it's something that it's not like we talked about a lot consciously or like put words to, but it's something that plays out in this book and makes it so good, is that this is a book that is speaking the language of comics and doing really good comic booking. And there are moments where you just want to sit with a page for minutes and kind of pour over it, and you get to control that pacing as a reader, which is something that I really adore. So that was a long rambling way of saying that Hannah's an incredible writer who took to scripting, like, you know, like she'd been writing comics for longer than I've been editing them. And I knew that Lisa would be kind of that missing ingredient that could help us all take this from like a story that existed in our mind to a story that played perfectly on the page.
Well, I think you guys did a really great job. I mean, so the first time I read it literally within maybe the span of 3 hours. I went right through it. I was like, I couldn't put it down. And the art and the writing itself, to me, really made the book. So I went back and read it again to really look at the artwork and really take it all in. But I had a question for you and Hannah and Lisa about, like, the story itself. Obviously it's a very, you know, touchy topic. It's around suicide and things of that nature. So when you were writing it, and I know, Lisa, you collaborated with that process as well, like, how do you balance that, you know, very serious topic with, there's a lot of comedy in here too. Like, I would say it's a dark comedy, right? So how do you balance that when you're doing that in your writing and then in your artwork as well?
Cool. I'll do the writing part and then Lisa can cover the art. So for me, this is mental health in general is like pretty much the biggest thing that I write about in my other work. Mm-hmm. It's something I'm very passionate about. It's like a cause that I'm very passionate about. It's something I have a lot of firsthand experience with. And I think that the next, like, frontier of mental health, you know, acceptance and all that stuff is kind of bringing a little bit more levity into it, so that, you know, the people, especially young people who are having these feelings and are suffering, I think it can be very isolating and lonely to like only have work that represents the tragic components of it, and you can't really poke fun at it ever, and it feels very serious, which it is a serious thing. I'm not saying it's not serious, but I do think that at this point we all are kind of aware that mental health and mental illness touches almost everybody, whether it's you or it's a loved one. And I think that kind of giving the medicine with a spoonful of sugar, which is the comedy, is kind of a nice way to make people feel like they're not a lost cause. You can take a breath. You can kind of look back and maybe look at your 16-year-old self who felt those things and say, God, you just didn't even know, like, you just didn't know that, like, that wasn't going to be forever. And there is a sense of, like, I think bringing some of that lightness to the darkness might actually end up making people feel more comfortable talking about their experiences with their loved ones, with their friends, in their art. So for me, I think that, you know, dark comedy is like my favorite thing in the world.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Great. I love it too.
Yeah.
It's my favorite genre. I think that it's, you know, I really do think that this is the way I know that I feel more at home. I feel more comfortable when I see my mental illness is portrayed in a way that's not just completely dark, and I'm oh, am I allowed to curse?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I always mess up too. It's okay.
Sorry. It makes me feel,
It's fine.
it makes me feel good to know that it's not just like this tragedy and I'm fricked forever. And so I do find that works like this are very needed in that space, especially for young people who are maybe scared and, you know, don't want to just feel like they're faced with horrors of life. So that's my take on it. And then Lisa did a lot to help with that. So I'll pass the.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with a lot of the stuff that you're saying. I think we're in a very similar headspace as to how to tell this story. And how to tackle these topics. And as far as the art goes, I mean, a lot of what was so amazing about working on the art in this book is that I got to transport myself a little bit to being that 16-year-old who, I mean, when I was 16, like, I feel I feel like no one talked about depression, really. I didn't really know that it was something that I had. And I thought it was just like normal teen angst. Like, we're all like this, you know? And it wasn't something you talked about with your friends, and at least not my friends or my family. And so I think if I'd had a book like this that kind of drew me in a way that wasn't, so dark and scary, that, had fashion and cool music and talked about and had a lot of the things that I already loved, while also kind of introducing, you know, themes and emotions and things that are scary. I drew a lot of this book for, you know, those young adults. And I think that as far as the more graphic nature of it, I try to, I mean, I love these characters. I love Ash. I love Liv. I fell in love with them through the script, and I fell in love with them drawing them. And I think that's kind of what I kept in mind whenever I had to draw something that was, you know, a little scary, a little darker in these scenes, is that I hope that that love and care shows through, and that those scenes aren't like exploitative in any way, or romanticizing. I guess that was one thing I really wanted to avoid with these topics. But yeah.
I would also, just to add on and say that due to the extreme absurdity of especially the first like 30 pages, there's an element too of just like, because it's absurd, there's almost a slapstick element to it, I would say. Like there's almost and because of that, you know, it reminds me, I don't know if there's any like theater heads in the chat, but it reminds me a lot of like Chekhov and like, you know, this vibe of, you know, it's so absurd that it's almost like you're not internalizing it as something that's romantic or even really that tragic, because you know that there's no way that this isn't reality in the way that we see.
100%. Mm-hmm.
My wife cannot stomach watching things like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad because those things really happen. But she loves the hell out of Kill Bill because
it's so
the over the top violence just is not real. It's so goofy that
100%. Yeah, exactly. So I think that that's also kind of partially how I feel like that's really helpful too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Did you catch the bug, Hannah? The graphic novel bug?
I'm obsessed.
Could you see yourself doing another project?
I would love to. I've said this before to Adrian and Lisa, but something that's very interesting about graphic novels as a writer that I've been telling all my writer friends, I'm like, you guys have to get on this. What's so cool about it is that you don't have to deal with standards and practices. So, for the first time in my entire life, I was able to show a 16-year-old doing certain things without legal saying you can't show that's going to get us sued. So creatively, I've never been freer in my entire life. And also you don't have to worry about budget. So you can have them doing anything in the world, and the network's not going to be like, that's out of budget. You can't have, I mean, we don't have this in the book, but you can't have them flying in a helicopter over the ocean while it's on fire. This is like a writer's dream medium. And I did not know until I did it. And now I'm like, I hope to God I get to do it again, because it's like the freest I've ever been. It feels like it's the most fulfilled I've been creatively that I can remember, because no one was there saying, you know, for business reasons, you can't do that. Like, you know, it's just it's so free. It's crazy. It's awesome.
I love hearing that. I love that you enjoyed it so much that you would love to do it again. Lisa, I love asking all the artists I have on here, what character would you like to draw one day?
Ooh.
Like a monthly comic for a year? Let's say a year. Like, what character would you like to work on? Anybody?
Oh gosh. I haven't thought about that in a long time. I mean, I think I'd have to say Harley Quinn.
I can see that. I can see that.
I've always been such a huge Harley Quinn fan, and Poison Ivy especially. Harley Quinn. Ivy. I would love to do a run with the two of them. That would kind of be my dream gig if I had to pick one. Like, you know, of what
I would subscribe immediately.
That would be fantastic.
In my monthly pool, instant.
Hannah, what about you? You just started writing graphic novels. Like, what kind of? Is there somebody that's piqued your interest in the world?
I have some weird ones that I grew up with that aren't a thing anymore, but I would bring them back.
Really? Okay.
Ooh.
So there was this one series called Lenore the Little Dead Girl. Do you guys know that one?
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I loved her. I weirdly had her growing up. I have all the little figurines and stuff.
Very Tim Burton-ish in a way, like the way.
Yeah. And I was obsessed with her. She's literally me. So I would love to bring her back. I also loved this graphic novel that I was given accidentally at a very young age called Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
The guy that did Invader Zim. Yeah.
Yes.
That was my favorite book growing up.
Okay, it's starting to make sense.
A lot, but that's how I actually got into graphic novels, is because it was given to me accidentally by a family member who didn't realize what they were giving me.
That's happened.
Such a good book, though. I love it.
It's a great book, but I had it extreme. Like I like literally had it extremely young. But then it also got me really into Invader Zim, so that was cool.
Yeah.
But those are my answers. Very weird.
Those are so
weird.
obscure.
They're completely on brand. They're so on brand.
Yeah, that was
Most
my.
people are like Batman, Superman, Wolverine, Jean Grey, Harley Quinn. You're like Johnny the Homicide. I haven't seen that guy around for a long time.
Yeah, and then they had like the little ramen boy one too. Like that was like the side character that I loved.
Yeah.
A T-shirt with him. It's like very weird, but those are the ones that I loved growing up.
I remember they had some at Hot Topic, like when it became retro, like about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they still have any of that merchandise.
I doubt it, but who knows? That's like, those are the kind of characters that, I mean, I would love to do a mashup of Lenore and Johnny. I feel like they would really get along.
Yeah.
There we go.
Now, Adrian, there's some questions in the chat that I think you can probably answer.
Okay, let's see.
I assume you can. People are asking about, there's Bart, will we get an oversized deluxe edition, or is it just standard?
So the edition there are a bunch of different editions up right now on our web store, including this, which is the standard edition. But you'll also see the signed edition, deluxe edition, and a slip-cased collector's edition, as well as like a glitter edition. I think we sold out of the glow in the dark because we could only manufacture so many of those.
I wanted one of those.
We always have inventory, but like as far as like our pre-orders. But to answer that question very specifically,
that's what I pre-ordered.
Glitter.
I pre-ordered.
How does that work?
So it will be pink and it will be covered in glitter, and then we heat seal the glitter on, and it doesn't come off. I promise, it doesn't rub off at all. It's amazing how good they are at making sure the glitter doesn't come off. But these are all at standard American like comic trim. They are the oversized edition. When the mass market edition comes out, it'll be at 6x9 and it'll be trade paperback. So the edition right now that's on the web store is the hardcover oversized beautiful edition. This is the standard, and it only goes up in sort of beauty and cool presentation from here, and it features like a additional really cool covers that Lisa's drawn. So you can get covers from our web store that you can't get any other way.
Oh, well, here's
There we go.
the other question too. Are there any plans to release the hardcovers in the direct market or book market later on, or will they only be available through the web store?
Right now, the hardcovers are only available through the web store. We don't plan to do the hardcover for direct market or book market release. We plan to do a 6x9 trade paperback. I think that we might do, and this is more a question for David on our team, but I believe we're holding back a certain amount of the hardcovers for direct market comic book stores, but not for mass market. So like, there's not going to be a hardcover on Amazon, but some shops that order from us will be able to get the hardcover for like comic book stores. But if you want a hardcover, the surest way to get it right now is to pre-order it through our web store, because the mass market release is going to be a trade paperback.
So shipping to Europe prohibitive, correct? Like, is that something that you are doing? We do have a lot of Europe. We have a lot of viewers all over the world,
Yeah.
so I know people will be asking later.
Yes, there is shipping internationally. Yes, it can get really pricey. If that's a worry, there's an info email that you can email, and we can, try to see if there's some way we can reduce shipping costs. We're sort of locked in. We're kind of at the mercy of what's available for shipping. But I know that, again, David and Damien on our team are trying to figure out ways to potentially reduce costs there. So I would say, plug it in, do the order, see what the shipping is, and if it's prohibitive, maybe shoot us an email. And if it's not, then awesome.
Direct and book markets, I assume this is the Vault Comics, book markets will also have some limited covers that are not on our store. Wow, that's awesome. So if you do love overseas, you live overseas and you're watching this later, Adrian and I think Vault Comics in the chat has stated that this will be available through direct market shops. I assume that would be Diamond, like people ordering.
Yeah, Diamond and Lunar both.
Oh, okay, so yeah,
order through Diamond and Lunar. Yep.
Which means if you're watching this and you have a comic book store and you don't they can order it overseas. Like they can put that order in through.
Depending on what. Yes, if they're in the UK or elsewhere that service by Diamond, then yes. But otherwise, the edition that will be made available through distribution through Simon & Schuster will be the trade paperback edition.
Okay.
Awesome.
Very good. So Hannah, I noticed you're holding a little kitten.
It
looks very. Is that the inspiration for Ashes? Okay.
Yeah, my cat is like a half hairless. We don't know what her breed is because the genetics thing said that they couldn't find it.
Oh, that's strange.
So she just left because she wriggled away. But yeah, she is Shrimps from.
Oh, nice. That's very cool.
Your cat's name is Shrimps?
No,
my cat's name is the cat in the book. Is
I was like,
cat is named
I thought you named the cat in the book after your cat. I was like,
no, but she looks identical. Like Lisa did a great job of making sure that they look the same.
Yeah, that's what. So when she came up to your lap, I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
That is neither the first nor the last time we've had actual pets appear in Vault books. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. So, there's two of the main characters, Ash and Liv. So, who do you all, and even Adrian, you could chime in. Do you identify with if you want to, Adrian, Liv or Ash or a combination?
Shrimps.
That's or Greg. No one wants to identify with Greg.
Nobody.
I have both of them inside of me. They're pretty. For me, it feels like they are two. I mean, not that they're the same, but they represent two different versions of me for my personal self. But I don't know about you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I do identify strongly with both of them. I think if I had to pick, I think I'm probably a little bit more like Ash than Liv.
Mm-hmm.
And I too am also obsessed with Elliott Smith, so we have that in common as well.
Yeah, I don't want to just say the same thing as everyone else, but I feel like there are elements of both that I identify with deeply. I think I'm probably more Liv than I am Ash. But I have this all my friends make fun of me for my grumpy side, because I have like days where I'm just like such a terrible curmudgeon, and it's just like an absolute like grump, and that's when the ash is winning. But most of the time I'm enthusiastic to the point of being annoying, which makes me, I think, live.
Is that why you need to take days off to go camping for a while and disappear?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because it's like once the energy runs out and the battery's at 0, I'm full grumpalumpagus. So yeah, that's when I disappear.
So you're usually bubbly like Liv.
All right, now we get some real questions from the chat. Do y'all have a favorite Fallout Boy song?
Look at Hannah's face. How do you pick is the answer.
You can only pick one. Hit.
Oh god.
You all think about it. Amanda, what's your favorite one?
Alone Together is my favorite song right now.
Oh.
Wilson, Expensive Mistake.
Okay, now you're cheating. I said one.
I know.
That's a weird
Depends
loophole.
on the mood and the time of the day.
Okay.
That is like the hardest question anyone's ever asked me. I like. Okay, I'm just gonna go with like, this is such a classic, but it's one that like every time I hear it, there's. Can I just do 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, Hannah, you're the writer.
You're the writer.
go
You
ahead
may
and
do 2.
My like classic, it's always good, it always hits, the lyrics are insane, is Grand Theft Autumn. There's like no, to me that's just a song that's like, to me it's literally a classic song, period. Like that is like a song that I think is historical in my opinion.
Okay.
I have this weird soft spot for some of their weirder ones, and there's this one that I really love called I've Got All This Ringing on my I've Got All This Ringing in My Ears and None on My Fingers. I've always just really loved that one. That's like a little bit of a weirder one, but I think that's my second favorite. And there's more, but I won't keep going. What about you, Lisa?
You won't compile your own.
Yeah, Hannah, you stole my answer because I
knew that was gonna happen.
But that's okay.
Well, you're allowed to. It's a perfect song. Like, how do you not love it?
That's like, it's like the Fall Out Boy song when I think of Fall Out Boy. But I think other than that, I mean, I was also a big From Under the Cork Tree fan, like the album. So that's probably any song on there. Like I listened to that so much when I was in high school. Is unstoppable.
Yeah, the music or the misery from that album is up there for me. But then also, like, I'm just gonna own it. Sugar We're Going Down is like one of my favorite songs of all time, and I definitely skateboarded a lot to that song when I was a shitty little
I love that you skateboarded too. That's great. Yeah.
Yes, I have all the broken bones from those years. So yeah.
Well, Pete used to say that Please Rise for Your National Anthem whenever Grand Theft Autumn, back in the day, pre-hiatus.
Oh my gosh.
He used to say that on stage. I'm sure you know.
Yes.
Yeah, but speaking of music though.
Wait, are you wearing a clandestine shirt?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so glad you guys are bonding. You have no idea how nervous she was. Like,
no, this is incredible. I love clandestine. Pete's actually brought some of it back, just in case you were.
Oh no, I have. Yeah.
Oh, you already know. Great.
Yeah. This I got on tour dust, but then the rest of it.
So did you see Daisy Grenade on your leg of tour dust?
I did not, and I'm dying to. So you're the creative director for them, are you not? So they are amazing. I love their songs, but so they were not on the later half, and that's when Fall Out Boy came to this neck of the woods.
Got it.
So that was Car was the
opener.
I love
Car. She's great.
She's amazing. So I'm hoping to see them at When We're Young. That is my plan, is to make sure I get a beeline for Daisy Grenade.
I'll be there, so I'll see you there.
Awesome. Yes. Let's grab a drink. That'll be fantastic.
This is my interview too.
Sorry.
Lisa, you want to hang out in Columbus? You like going to 16-bit? I love that arcade bar.
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah.
All right. Let's grab a drink there. I'm not going to be upstage.
Afterwards, there you go. So.
All right. Video games, arcades, and beer. Oh, man, I'm there, dude.
Yeah. Exactly.
Although When We Were Young sounds really awesome too.
It's going to be fantastic. Yeah, it's going to be a great time. 2 days worth of it. But so for those in the chat who don't know, you also have an accompanying playlist to Dying Inside. So how did that came about? Who selected the songs? And I think Daisy Grenade has a special song too. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, they have a song that has not been released that is going to, we're going to have a QR code within the book that will lead you to a performance of it. It's one of my favorite songs that they've ever written. So it's very special to me that this is how it's being given to the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, the playlist is something that me and Pete worked on together. Me and Pete both love Elliott Smith. That's something that we're very passionate about. We really want to do an Elliott Smith film project, but it's tough because, his parents own the masters and stuff. Anyway, but we love Elliott Smith. We have a lot of shared love of the same bands because I grew up on his music. And then of course, we're going to like a lot of the same music.
So it's James on top of it. He found the Spotify playlist already.
Thank you, James.
Okay.
He's our oracle. He does that for us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, it's just a mix of what we think, either whether it's something that Ash would listen to or Liv, or whether it's something that relates to the plot, or whether it's a band that we reference in the actual book. It's kind of like, and then in some scenes, the actual songs are like, there are certain times where there are songs in the book and you can like follow along if you want to with that song. So it kind of is a mix of things.
When you were writing, were you listening to music?
Oh, all the time. I think that, the reason that me and Pete started working together a few years ago for film is because his writing, I used to print out his the Fall Out Boy lyrics, and basically I treated it like it was like Shakespeare. Like I come from a theater background, and I would kind of treat it like Shakespeare stand. Like I was really, his writing is why I write. And so a lot of the times I find that listening to music with really great lyrics really helps me kind of get in that place, and helps me really set a mood. So yes, so a lot of these songs I listen to kind of gain inspiration or to round that out for me as I was reading.
Should we be listening to that Spotify playlist while we're reading Dying Inside? Is there like a specific order, or it's just listen to it and
the order is there for a reason. It ends with a specific song that is, I believe, written in by the end. I might be wrong. Yes. Okay, cool. I'm just confirming. That was a kind of a reset situation. But yeah. So if you want to, it is there for you. Yeah.
I have to ask this question then. You said you listen to music while you write. That's impressive, because sometimes you get caught up in the lyrics and things as you're writing. Or is it music like I don't know, classical music?
Oh no, I'm not that smart.
You're smart enough to write while you're listening to words. That's really smart. That's impressive.
It feels like it's on different planes. Like, I don't know. Maybe that is a weird thing. It feels to me like I can hear two different voices. I am ill. I can hear two different voices at the same time, I guess.
I didn't know we were going to have a therapy session.
This is where the conversation
Should I?
It all makes sense now.
Omar is a good therapist. So
I am. I've been told that. Yes. Probably because I have a lot of problems myself. So what about you, Lisa? Do you listen to music? Or do you like nature?
So when I was working on Dying Inside, I was either listening to music. The playlist is great. I love it.
Okay.
It's so good. There was an earlier one that I was listening to as well that Hannah had made for the pitch, I think, that I listened to a bunch. But if I wasn't listening to music like Elliott Smith or such, I was rewatching the first few seasons of Skins while I worked on it. So
wow. I haven't seen Skins in years. That's awesome.
It just, it felt right. It just that was the vibe I needed while I was drawing this book. I don't know why. So it means, I guess. There you go.
Okay.
So.
There we go.
Adrian, when is this book due out, and when can people expect it to ship out? And are all the different covers and the formats going to ship out on the same day? And I say due because of, sometimes there's delays.
The only one that potentially would ship later would be signed editions, because we're doing tip-in for some, but I think that stuff has to get moved around to different people for signing. But the direct-to-consumer editions will all be shipping in August, And then the mass market edition does not come out until September 18th. So you get it a month early if you get the hardcover edition.
Is it the English version of Skins?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So August and then September, and that is the trade paperback version too.
That's the trade paperback. So the trade paperback will be September 18th. That's off the top of my head. I'm usually pretty good with that, but fact check me. September 18th.
17th in the chat.
You're
17th.
You know what?
17th is Tuesday in the book market. 18th is
Yeah,
Wednesday.
that's
Okay,
right.
there we go.
So you're not off. You're not off.
Very
though.
nice.
I'm a direct market boy. That's where I was born and raised. So that's why that's the date that's stuck in my head. So the 17th in the book market, 18th in the direct market, and then the like I said, the hardcover direct to consumer editions will all be out a month early in August.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. So I always like to end these conversations, but I'm going to let Amanda end it. But I have one more question
Okay.
for both Lisa and Hannah, because I've asked Adrian this one before. What advice would you give anybody, any girl, any boy that's sitting there wanting to do their own comic and graphic novel? Or what advice would you give yourself when you were younger?
I mean,
It's not as hard as what's your favorite Fall Out Boy song? You got that one.
the obvious, oft repeated, bit of advice is read a bunch of comics. Absolutely.
I love that answer.
Read superhero comics, read cartoonists, read indie comics, read it all. Figure out what you like, figure out what kind of things resonate with you, and then just start making comics. Like, that's literally, like, even if you're the only one reading them, and even if you just put them online and show them or put them on Instagram or whatever you have to do, the first comic that I made, Long Lost, I didn't think it was, I literally was like, if this doesn't go anywhere, then I guess I'm not going to make comics anymore. But, I took a chance, and, you just gotta, just start making stuff. So that's the easiest bit of advice I have, I guess.
That's good advice. I mean, yeah, I think consuming as much as possible of whatever art you want to make is obviously going to add more colors to your palette and, also teach you about what you like. I think my other like small bits of advice would be, really lean into whatever the thing is that makes you different. Even if it hasn't been done before, even if it feels a little bit risky, like this is definitely a plot line that it's not like an easy thing to talk about. So, there's only one you, and if you have something that you want to say or something that you want to try, you really should go for it. And the other thing would be finding like-minded individuals to collaborate with to help strengthen the vision and to help strengthen the support system that you have, because obviously there's power in numbers and you don't have to work on these things alone, and you might find a lot of joy in that collaboration. There is no amount, I can't even express how much joy I've had working with Lisa and Adrian and Pete on this, because we all have these really nice connections and we all like similar things, but then they also bring in perspectives that I certainly don't have. So that is, even if it's in early stages, I think bringing in people that you share a vision with is really great.
Did you ever think you would be working? Okay, I slid one more question.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. Did you ever think you'd be working with somebody's music? Like Pete Wentz, whose music you were listening to as a youngster? Like, how does that feel?
It's crazy. I mean, like I said, it's obviously, I'm so lucky. It's something that I'm also very delusional about, because when I was 14, I would tell my parents all the time, like, I'm going to meet him and work with him one day. And they were like, okay. And then I literally got to be like, ring, ring, bitches. I did it.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's true manifestation right there.
Yeah.
I think that, but it goes back to really trying to reach out to people whose work you love and respect and that you want to be a part of, because, he's never done anything in film or graphic novels before. So, Adrian Andworld, that's something like where you take a chance and you reach out and you say, hey, I really like your work. I think we could work together and I think it could be cool. And then that's kind of where artists all want to work together and make really cool work. And it is crazy though. I mean, for me, I it's been a few years of working with him, so I'm a little bit more like, I still am starstruck, but I'm also very like, okay, I know him. He's my friend and he's my collaborator.
That's so cool. This gives me the inspiration to reach out to Bruce Springsteen.
Why not?
Me and Adrian and Bruce, the boss man. We're gonna make a graphic novel. Yeah, we're gonna do a graphic novel together. Anything's possible. I'll call Lisa. Go ahead, Amanda.
Well, I guess so. For my final question, so obviously this book, you know, as a Fall Out Boy fan, it was probably a given I was going to pick this up, but also because it's not only a female protagonist, it's female writer, female artist. I think that is just a great team. But for someone who may not be like a Fall Out Boy fan, that's like, I'm going to buy this because Pete Wentz's name is on it. What would be your pitch? What would you say to those people? Why should they pick up this graphic novel?
It's a great question.
I mean,
Adrian,
I have a lot of answers to that question. I mean, I think the first and probably the most important to me is that we don't see a lot of books about friendship focused on two young women, where the plot isn't like, how do we meet a cute boy or keep talking about cute boys? And that is something that sets this book aside. You know, I think of touchstones that I know Lisa and Hannah and I talked about a bunch, but movies like Jennifer's Body. Like, if you're a Jennifer's Body fan, you should pick this book up. You know, and we've already talked about some of the kind of indie comics that are in its DNA. Like, if you're a Love and Rockets fan, pick this book up and give it a shot. Or if you read Black Hole in high school like I did, and your brain was like, holy shit, like this is, you know, here's me cursing. You know, like this is like this is gonna stick with me forever. Pick this up. Similarly, if you're a Scott Pilgrim fan, I would say pick this up. Yeah. So I think the thing that this book does so effectively that makes it appeal to broad audiences is that it appeals to specific audience. It genuinely captures what it feels like to be a teenager. And then, yes, it captures what it feels like to be a very specific kind of teenager. But in that, you find the like ubiquitous themes, the universal themes of just going through all the crap that we all do when we're supposed to be growing up. And instead, it kind of feels like the world's tearing us down. So that would be my pitch. My pitch is that it's doing something that genuinely sets it apart. And for that risk alone, it merits your attention. Whether it turns out to be your favorite book or not, I think readers will appreciate that honestness that the book brings.
For me, so the only person here that was not a teenager listening to Fall Out Boy, I really like this book. Like, there are elements that I related to the main characters with, because like Adrian said, I think he put it beautifully. We were all that age at one time, and you can relate to the characters because we've all had negative thoughts and doubts, and then connecting with people, connecting with another kid that was different yet very much like you. That's why I really enjoyed it.
I also, sorry.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. But I was also going to say, just as an added thing, if any of the readers have, I specifically wanted to write something that was an easy way in for young girls, like not too young, but teen girls who maybe haven't ever really experimented in reading in the graphic novel space, because I feel like there's not a ton of like really I mean, there is, obviously it exists, but there's not an excess of really girl-centric stories. And so what I might say is, if you have a friend or a niece or a daughter or anyone in your life that you think, hey, maybe they might like graphic novels and we could bond over that, this is a great way to get them kind of in this space in a way that feels really fun, and something that I think you don't have to be a graphic novel lover to love it, but also you can, it kind of works for everyone. And I think it's a really easy way if you wanted to bring any young person, but especially a young woman, into this situation. I think this is a really great way to do it.
I love that, because I want to see more women in graphic novels.
Those are great answers. Those are great answers.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for your time, for joining us, and Adrian for putting all this together and just bringing it back home. And thank you to my co-host Amanda, who knew all the right questions about Fallout Boy.
You're welcome.
Had me a little lost, but that's okay.
That's fine.
I think, this was great. I love seeing somebody new to the graphic novels world and be excited about probably writing some more later on.
Yeah,
I will be very disappointed if Hannah doesn't write more graphic novels, and I
there
will
we
be
go.
even more disappointed if I don't get to see another Hannah and Lisa and hopefully Pete collaboration at some point.
We'll keep it going.
I'll say I would like to see more. Yeah, 100%.
Lisa, can you tell? I don't know if you can say or not because I know sometimes there's contracts and things signed. Can you tell us what you're working on next?
I'm currently working on the sequel for Squad, the graphic novel that I did with Maggie Takuta Hall, which it's about teen girls that turn into werewolves and eat creepy boys. So
Very good.
very excited that we get to do a sequel to that one, and it's going to be very good. So that's what I'm working on right now. Probably won't be out for a while, but yeah. You'll just have to be patient, I guess.
And Hannah, what about you? Not graphic novels, but like what else? What are you working on these days?
I'm working on some cool things. Unfortunately, I
can't talk about it.
But just, follow this space. I don't know what they say. It's all going to be fun and good and lots of girls, so much girl stuff. All I do is write girl stuff. So if you see something girl centric in film or television, maybe see if my name's attached to it. Nice. Who knows?
Okay.
Can we follow you on your socials for that information?
Yeah, mine is just Hannah H. Klein on Instagram.
Awesome. And Adrian, what's upcoming for Vault Comics, buddy? You said this is the first one that has seen print, right?
Yeah. And then after that, yep. And then after that, we've got Deathstalker, which is running in single issues right now. Flash, and they just wrapped filming the new movie, so that's rad. Yeah, so you should follow along with the film too, and you should pick up the graphic novel when it comes out because it like rolls right into the start of the movie, so you get to read it and basically get to know even more about the world. Plus the team on it is amazing. It's Tim Seeley and Jim Terry, and then Slash.
And Jim just got all kinds of Eisner nominations.
Yeah, he's an Eisner nominated like multiple times now. And then the other one is if you're a Def Leppard fan, keep your eyes and ears peeled.
Okay.
Can you peel your ears? I don't know, but keep your eyes and ears peeled if you're a Def Leppard fan, because we got a lot. We got a really big, really cool thing coming there.
Well, okay, awesome. Well, thank you, all of you again for joining us, and thank you to the chat for chiming in on some awesome questions and some questions that stumbled our guests. We were not in control of those questions. Sorry. Everybody, thank you for watching us. Smash that like button. Check out the book. I did leave links in the description of the video for the standard edition and the deluxe edition if you want to go and check them out and pre-order them. And yes, Diane.
That's right, David.
Forever, David. How are you, buddy? Somebody earlier mentioned you, Lisa. It was James. You should ask Lisa about all the comic stuff that goes on in Columbus.
Oh, I mean, yeah, Columbus is a fantastic comics town. We have the Billy Island Comics Library. It's like the only one of its kind.
Yeah.
It's always got some amazing exhibitions, and you can see original artwork from so many different cartoonists. It's amazing. And there's also a really cool Columbus Cartoon Crossroads, which is a free comics like citywide event at the library and multiple locations around Columbus that I'm going to be at this year. So
when is that?
It's the weekend after. No, the weekend before Dying Inside comes out. So I think.
But Adrian knows when that is.
It's actually the weekend after. Yeah. So I think it's
the weekend after.
Yeah, it's September 22nd, I think, something around there.
Yeah,
I don't know the date off the top of my head, but
I haven't been to Columbus in a while, and I do love 16-bit, and I love Laughing Ogre.
Oh yeah,
Comic
Laughing
book
Over
shop.
is a amazing comic book shop. They've been supportive of me since I first started making comics. So
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing
I'll
that.
throw a shout out in for Laughing Ogre as well. Incredible shop. If you're ever in
Absolutely.
Columbus, you have to go. They are the best. I love them dearly.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about
Yeah.
that, Ben. I may have to head that way that weekend.
Mhm.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Go and check
Omar,
out.
Amanda, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank you so much.
you. It was nice to meet you guys.